You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your host, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Corby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Well, today is part 2 of our previous podcast episode, and it's answering your questions. So we did answer quite a few last time, but we had a few left over. So that's what we're hoping to answer today.
Yep. And I'm excited to, so if you didn't think that you got your question answered, you're like, I thought I put a question in. Well, you're probably in this one. But yeah, we just, we didn't want to do just really short answers. These are questions that at least one of us is hearing for the first time. And so we wanted to make sure that we give good quality, honest answers. So without further ado, we'll start with the first one, which is, what is your favorite part of your business?
Oh, that's such a good question. I haven't even thought about this. So what I say now will probably be the first thing that comes into my head. And I kind of think it probably is the best thing, the best part, my favorite part of the business is when people tell me I've published my first book, or I've just earned so and so much money from my books. So I love, the best part is the success stories that people send me. And I do get quite a few, and I love getting them. So please keep them coming, because they really make my day, because then I know my work is done. I've done what I set out to achieve. So that is, one of the biggest drivers for my business. What about you? I bet you feel the same, Keith.
I do. I absolutely do. When it comes to the part of my business, the Keith Wheeler Books part, where I'm YouTube videos and courses and all that. Absolutely, it's hearing from the people who you've helped, and you don't necessarily always get, you don't always know who you're helping, or that you're helping anyone. So to hear that is definitely one of the highlights. As far as my book publishing business, I can honestly say without any question, my favorite part is surprisingly not the paycheck. My favorite part is the control that I have. The fact that I have complete control, within reason, of my content, of how much money I'm going to make, because I can always publish wide. I can publish more books. I can run ads or whatever. I have that control. Mm-hmm. Whereas if when you've got a 9-to-5 job, all you really have control over is what you put into it, but you can't control how much money the business as a whole makes. You can't control if the business is going to do downsizing and you're going to, like you're going to lose your job. And we don't always like to talk about that because it is, a negative, but somebody had said once, and I don't recall who it was to give them credit, but they had said that if I were to lose my 9-to-5 job, or something was to happen to me, is my 9-to-5 job going to take care of my family? Yeah. And the answer is, with 99.9% certainty, probably not. Whereas my business will, without publishing any more books, my family will still be taken care of for quite a bit of time, and so that control in a positive way that I have, the amount of work, the amount I get back is equal to the amount of work I put in. Yeah. And so that amount of control is probably one of my favorite aspects of my overall business, and why I still continue to create books for people.
Yeah, I think that is such a good answer. And I actually have the same answer, but the word to describe that is different. I call it freedom. Yeah. I feel that it is control, but it's also, I've always said freedom, because I say to my husband quite often, aren't we lucky? we are so lucky. Our lives have changed so much in the sense that we can do what we want. We can work the hours we want to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I know someone said once, I gave up my 9 to 5 and now I work 24 hours a day, which is true as well. When you do run your own business, you do work harder, I think. But you do also get the plus side of that, which is you can choose your hours. You can work maybe one full day from the minute you get up till the minute you go back to sleep, but then the next day you can take that day off. So you have control. Here's the word control again. You have control over your hours at least, or you have the freedom to choose your hours. So either way, whether you call it control or freedom, it's the same thing. It's the power even to do what you want. It is a power. It's really it's life-changing, and it's something that has enabled me to live a better life, not because of the money. The money is almost secondary. It's the time you spend with people. It's what you can do for other people as well. You have, if someone needs you, you can be there for them. So that for me, that is probably the next best thing that I like about book publishing or this business. Yeah. So different words, but the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, and I've, for the last probably 3 years, when it comes to my book publishing business, I take the entire month of December off, and my business doesn't get hurt from it. I get to spend that time with my grandkids when they're, off of school, and, family that comes in for vacation or whatever. I get to spend that time, and I'm 100% present in that, with them. I'm not, doing something else and then going out there to talk to them. And so that's just one of the many things. But again, freedom is a great way to word it as well.
Yeah. The thing is, there's also, it's not just that it gives you all this freedom and everything, but I can't remember who said it, but someone said that I can't remember the exact quote, but if you do what you enjoy, you never work a day in your life. So I think this does that as well, because I enjoy my work so much. I love creating books. I think that is the other one. That's the third thing I would say that I love about this business, is actually the creation of books or the writing of books. And that is so much fun that I don't feel that I'm working. I feel like I'm having fun. There are parts of the business where I don't feel that it's so much fun, especially when you have to do your accounting for the tax man and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
That's not so much fun, because that is a different part. I'm not very good with analytics and things like that. So luckily I've got my husband for that, and he can find all the data because that's the other thing. Researching involves a lot of data. I'm not the best at that. I research in a different way, but yeah, it's fun for me. So I don't even feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm working on my hobby or something. So I'm very lucky in that way. Do you feel about work like that as well, Keith?
I do. I mean, there would be times when, all right, I'm just going to go into the office and I'm going to write like 2 chapters. And next thing I know, I've been in there for 4 or 5 hours, and I've just knocked out half a book. Where it just happens. You get in the zone, and that's happened. I say the word writing, but that's happened when I've worked on a puzzle book or whatever, or I could be working on a course. The point is I get engrossed in it, and then because I'm enjoying it, it doesn't feel like work. That time just kind of slips away, and that's definitely something that is a positive. It's something that not a lot of people who are working a 9 to 5 can say.
I think it's the creative side of it. I think that's why I don't like the analytical side so much, even though I think it's really important to have that as well. But the creative side in me is the part that enjoys it so much. So that is where time just seems to fly. I can be on the computer for what seems like 10 minutes, and someone will say it's dinner time, and I didn't realize 3 hours have gone by. So it's like time flies when you're having fun. That's the expression.
Yep.
And it is flying. I'm having fun with this. So that's the other thing I love about this business. Yeah.
So the next question we have is from Judy Shearwaters, and she asks, what would you bet on, or what would you bet money on as a winner in KDP for 2026?
Wow. Do I have to go first again? That's a question and a half.
Yeah, I could do a whole episode just on that.
Yeah, we could, couldn't we? I think if anyone knew what the winner is or what we could bet on, we'd all be rich.
Right.
I think it's really difficult to answer that question because there are certain trends I can see happening, but then if I've already spotted the trend, the opportunity is already gone because people are already doing it. So I think it's difficult to go and base it on trends because by that time it's already out there. So I don't really know. Like I said, I mean, if we knew, we would probably be quite wealthy by now. But yeah. I think what I did notice is there's a shift to shorter content. I think people like to consume things in, I don't know, in where it doesn't take them as long or as much time to consume that content. I've noticed that on Facebook, on all sorts of social media, and I wonder whether books are slightly similar. But then again, there's also another trend I've noticed is that people are reverting to paper books rather than electronic books, electronic devices. There's a trend going round now where especially young people are turning to books, to actual paper or hardbacks rather than a Kindle. So that's another trend. So I'm hoping that one takes off because that's only good news for us.
Right.
So yeah, I find that question really difficult to answer, but what a great question. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, like I said, could do a whole episode on this. I mean, the short answer would be, what do they say? Things about wealth, health, and relationship would be, I mean, those are the ones that are just given. Those are things that always sell. They're also super competitive because of that. But one of the things that you pointed out about people consuming things in more bite-sized aspects, and then conversely, people also, another segment that's going towards the print versions. I think one thing that I would say is something that I would bet on as not necessarily a niche, but a good business opportunity within book publishing is to have your book in different formats. So that way, if the end user is one of those that wants a print version, you've got it. If they want a hardcover version, you've got it. If you want to use someone like lulu.com where you can do spiral bound, these are all options that you can do that will, you've created the product one time and you have multiple versions of it. And so multiple formats. And so you basically are increasing your chances of getting sales just because you're offering it in different ways. And so that's definitely one aspect, I would say. The other thing, you were talking about trends, and once you notice a trend, it's kind of too late. But one area to look for trends that you can kind of get ahead of other people is looking outside of the book world. Like, for example, if you're a writer, what types of TV shows are you seeing more and more of? And then can you write a good book version of that particular genre? So back in the 90s and early aughts, a lot of them were those not reality, but the police dramas. You had like the SVUs and the Criminal Minds and all those, which, I mean, I know they're coming back, but back then that would have been a great trend written content to jump on. So look and see what kind of trends you see outside of books. I use television as an example, but movies or whatever other media out there, if you're seeing a trend in that, there's a good chance that that trend is going to spill over into the book world.
Absolutely. That's such a good tip. Yeah. And another thing I thought of is also, I don't know what kind of opportunity this is, but I've noticed all the bookstores now have, here in the UK anyway, they've all got a section, I think they're called beautiful books or noteworthy books or something like that. And they're really lovely books that are either leather bound or cloth bound, and they have I can't remember what it's called. When they print on the actual, not on the spine, on the other side,
on the edges,
edges,
sprayed
on the
edges.
Sprayed edges.
Yep.
That's it. And they look stunning. And I know a company here in the UK that does that, which is Book Vault. And I was going to look into that this year. That was one of the things I wanted to look into. I wanted to produce a beautiful book. So hopefully, I don't know how I'm going to sell that, whether print on demand is. I haven't looked into it. That's the truth. So that's what I wanted to do next. I wanted to look into that, into a different type of book, just to see what can be done. Whether that'll take off next year, I have no idea, but it's just something that I feel like looking into, because I've noticed that people love beautiful books. They love books that look
like
nice on their libraries, and absolutely. Yeah, so that's another one.
Yep. Okay, so the next question, and if you want, I can go first on this one, but is there anything that you miss about CreateSpace that you wish KDP still did?
Yeah, you'll have to go first because I've never been on CreateSpace.
Okay.
I started in 2019, and by then it was Amazon KDP.
All right, showing my book age. Okay. So things that CreateSpace did that I wish KDP still did. The easiest answer would be a 30-day payment window instead of 60 days. So that was something that CreateSpace did, which was nice. Especially like right after Q4, instead of waiting until February to get those December sales, you got them in January. That was nice. And then the other thing I would say, and not a lot of people knew about this, is a publishing advisor. There was a form that you could fill out, and based on your answers in the form, they would send you a link with service information based on the responses and the goals that you had. And so it was free to fill out the form and everything. And it was kind of like the platform's way of providing you next steps for your business, especially if you were new to self-publishing. And so some of the things that they would offer that would be in the link would be things that they charged for, but there were a lot of things that were free options. And again, it was a nice kind of like next steps and goals for people that were on CreateSpace, and maybe they had never published a book before, or they'd only published a couple. Based on your answers, they would kind of guide you into what your next steps should be. And so that was nice, a nice option that CreateSpace offered.
Wow, that sounds really good, actually. That sounds like that would be very helpful. But I think times have changed. I mean, I obviously missed that period of being on CreateSpace, and I started just after Amazon took over. And what I do feel, though, is that in those days, wasn't it easy to make money on Amazon KDP? It was a lot easier than now, I would say, because there weren't any people publishing low content books, or there weren't many people publishing low content books. And I think it has taken off, or it took off so quickly. There were so many books published, and we all know the kind of books we're talking about, the notebooks that had the same sentence written on them and just changed one
different
word
colors.
or different colors. And in those days, those things still sold. You know, you could still put a notebook on Amazon KDP or going back on CreateSpace, and it would make sales, whereas now it's a little bit more difficult than that. So if I had to miss anything, I've never been on CreateSpace, but I would say bring back those days where you could create a notebook and make lots of sales. Saying that, I still have notebooks that sell, and I still create the odd one, but they have to be very different to anything that's out there. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's more of a that wasn't really a CreateSpace thing. That was the Times thing.
Times nostalgia.
So that's more of that's not something that KDP can bring back. It's it's times gone by. But yeah, I definitely remember those days. And don't get me wrong, there I named two things that CreateSpace had compared to that KDP doesn't currently have. But I mean, there's so much that KDP does that CreateSpace didn't. Whether it was back then, it wasn't a necessity. It wasn't something relevant. I mean, I absolutely am very pleased with what KDP offers us. And I mean, even the percentage obviously is not ideal. I mean, obviously you always want to get more for the work you've put in. But and again, we could do a whole nother episode on that. But considering the fact that they don't charge us to publish on their platform and to get access to their huge marketplace or marketplaces, I think is definitely worth that percentage. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that KDP does now that CreateSpace, like I said, wasn't relevant then. But if I could talk KDP into bringing back two things that CreateSpace used to do, those are the two things I would request.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And again, I mean, there's a lot of people now, and myself included, that may not need that publishing advisor anymore. But just and especially when you think of all the people that are out there, all the YouTubers out there that provide information like you and I do. But this was tailored to the responses that the individual gave. And so it was almost like a one-on-one advice that you could get without talking to anybody, literally just by filling out a survey or a form. Yeah. So it was definitely something that was a nice addition.
Yeah, because to be fair, I mean, we do have the KDP Academy. Is it called Academy? University,
yeah.
Sorry.
University.
KDP University. So you would think that, I mean, that is quite a good thing to have. But from what you're saying, it was actually tailored to the individual, which, that was a very big bonus to get from CreateSpace.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, it wasn't like videos or anything like that. It was, I mean, I'm sure as a programmer, I'm sure there were, just they had a list of things and just based on your answers. But again, it was something additional that you got. So if you felt like you had no clue what your next steps would be, you filled this out and it gave you some ideas, at least whether you did them or not. And again, there were things in there that were paid options, that you could pay to have done. But again, it still gave you some guidance. And I know, especially with people first starting out, that it can be overwhelming not knowing, or worse, or just as bad, is knowing all the possibilities of what you can do and being like a deer in the headlights, frozen about, not being able to make a decision where you should go because you don't want to go the wrong way. You don't want to waste your time or waste your money. So what should I do next? So it was a nice option.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it was good. But like you say, we've got a lot of other options now on KDP as well, which are great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Well, this one's a really short one. This one came from it was a comment on one of our previous podcast episodes. David Lee asked, "Can you suggest any good freelancers for book cover designs?" And I know I have a suggestion. Do you have
No,
anybody?
because I've never used a book cover design. I always make my own, including the Positivity Switch where I did the cover on Ideogram, because it does fantastic text and typography. So I did that with that. And before that, I used to just use Canva and create my covers on there. So no, I can't comment on that. But if I had to choose one, I would probably, if I had to go on Fiverr, I would make sure that I check out all the feedback that they have. Or I would probably ask our friend Dale if he had any recommendations, because he always talks about a lot of places where you can, and I can't remember the one that he mentioned sometimes, but I'm sure you know.
Miblart is a good platform. Or 99 Covers, I believe, is owned by them as well. They're just a little bit more budget friendly. If you're talking about a specific freelancer, and I'm sure Dale would agree with this as well, Olivia Pro Design she's on Fiverr, and she is amazing. I've used her countless times over the last, I don't even know how many years. She's got thousands of reviews on Fiverr. And like you said, if you're going to use any kind of freelancer, I would look at their portfolio. I would look at their reviews. I would look at not just the number of stars, just like with a book review. Don't necessarily look at the stars as much as the actual responses that people are leaving, the actual comments that they're leaving on their reviews. So you can see what was liked, what maybe didn't pass mustard, if sort of, what they say. But yeah, Olivia has done everything from nonfiction book covers to fiction books to my covers for puzzle books. I mean, she's literally done all that for me. And I have never, and she does, as of the last time I used her, unlimited revisions. So until you're happy, she will help. And so, and she's very reasonably priced. So that would be, if you wanted a referral for one particular person, that's the one cover designer that I've used the most and seen the most success with.
That's really good to know. I will definitely check them out, and I think that's the best way to really get a cover designer, by recommendation. If someone can recommend them, that's always the best way to go. So thanks for that tip, Keith, because I think I will probably need a designer for this year. I'm trying to, you know me, I try to do everything myself, but there comes a point when you're going to have to let other people do some things, because, but that's the problem again with me. I enjoy designing the covers. Right. So that's why.
And you have the freedom to decide.
That's it. Yes, and the control.
And the control. Right. But yeah, I mean, and not to take away from, like I said, other designers that maybe I haven't used before. If you are in a group or a community with like-minded authors that are in your niche, feel free to reach out and ask them if they have any suggestions on cover designers, and see what they say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, could you repeat the name again? I'll make a note of that.
Yes, it's Olivia Pro Design.
Fantastic. So that's one to consider.
Yeah, and she's really good at it. If you like her and you use her, I mean, she'll just send me random discounts, just to, as kind of a thank you.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question I have is, do you notice a difference in sales between books that showcase a single type of puzzle and books that contain a variety of puzzles? And this is from Amanda. So obviously this is about puzzle books. So have you noticed a difference in sales between books that have just basically a word search book versus a mixed puzzle book or variety book?
Yeah, that's another one I can't really answer because I tend to make variety puzzle books. So I couldn't. So I've never made just a Sudoku book or just a one particular puzzle. I tend to kind of make them like activity books, so they're more varied, and then it ranges by how hard they are or how easy they are that way, rather than by type of puzzle. So I wouldn't be able. My guess, and I wonder whether you're going to say, my guess is that targeted one puzzle type books would do better. Am I right, or is that wrong?
From my experience,
Yeah.
I have found that variety books do better.
Oh, good. I've been doing the right thing then.
I have done, and I say that it depends, but in general, and just to build on the reason why I believe this is the case, is if you're creating a word search book and it's only word searches, then you're basically leaving almost 100% of your sales based on your niche, whatever niche you're in, because now you have to compete with all the other word search books out there. Also, when it comes to discoverability and using keywords and things like that, you've got, as far as puzzles are concerned, you've got word search. Whereas if you create a puzzle book that has multiple, a variety in there, now, you've got people who are looking for word searches, people who are looking for Sudokus, people who are looking for, crosswords or whatever. And while some may argue that, okay, but now you're broadening your audience, so you're making it more competitive. You're also, it's more competitive as far as the different types. Like showing up for just Sudoku, you're going to be lower down than someone who has a book all about Sudoku, but you have a broader audience of people that can find you. And a lot of people, especially, we kind of talked about this earlier about people's shorter attention spans. You feel like you're getting a bigger value if you have more than one puzzle type. Now, I have done the ones that I've seen that are solo, just one puzzle type that have sold better are with the more unique puzzle types, things like, Hashiwaka Karo, which is my favorite one to say.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. And I have sold books that are just on hashis, and I've actually sold them for more money per book, but it took a while in my brand to get to that point. First you have to introduce it to people, and then and there's a whole methodology behind it. I could do a whole episode just on that. But generally speaking, if you're creating a puzzle book for the first time, or you're creating a brand new brand for puzzle books, I would say your best bet is to do variety puzzle books. And I would say do 3 to 5 in your series with some overlapping puzzle types, but some that are not in the other ones. Because then when you do your A+ content, you can do the comparison chart and show, volume 1 has got these puzzle types in it, volume 2 has these in it. And so people can actually not only pick the one they like, the one book, but they can say, oh, well, this one has the, some of those same puzzles, but it's also got these other ones that I've never heard of, or I like those too, or whatever. And you can get people to buy multiple books in your series. So again, with variety, with plain, with just one book and one puzzle type in the book, then you're going to be more limited to the only people interested in this book, this word search book, are people that like word searches. That's it. If they don't like word searches, or maybe they like word searches, but they don't want to spend $10 on just a word search book, when I can spend $10 on a book that's got word searches and crosswords and Sudoku and maybe some other types of word puzzles.
I'm glad you said that, because I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing, because I approached it from a branding perspective. I thought, what kind of books can I create that I can brand, that I can create a brand around? And for me,
Right.
it was just much easier to create a brand around, for example, brain training for seniors, which
Right.
can then include lots of different puzzle types.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just did a Sudoku puzzle book, how do I brand that? I found it more difficult. I found it
Mhm.
easier to give it a broader title, so to speak, a broader audience. But at the same time, it wasn't a big audience, because it was specifically brain training for seniors. So
Right.
it's not like brain training for everyone. It was even niched down even further than
Yeah. I'll
that.
say
So
even more targeted. Yeah.
yeah. So that's how I approached it. But I keep wondering, should I make just one puzzle type book? So I'm glad you said that, it's best to go that way. So I did the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works with so many different, even more targeted niches.
Mhm.
If you want not just targeting teachers, but maybe targeting math teachers, well,
Mhm.
you can have a variety book that's got different types of number-based puzzles, not just Sudokus.
Yeah.
Sudokus, Hashiwaka Karos. There's number word searches that you can do, and so again, it still adds that variety, no pun intended, but
Mhm.
but again, still for that targeted niche. And then, of course, again, with teachers, if you're doing, librarians or English teachers or whatever, then your variety puzzle would probably be more word related,
Yeah.
have word type puzzles. But again, not just word searches.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's good.
all right. So we've got two more questions. This next one, it's more of a statement, but it says, it seems the only way to make money on Amazon KDP anymore is to jump on trends. What do you think of that?
Oh, I disagree. I
Yeah.
think it's the
I,
opposite. I think really it's the opposite. I think I see too many people jump on trends when everybody's on that trend. I think the way to make money on KDP, as with anything, is to be different. And trends are okay. And I guess you can jump on a trend, but then make your book different. Do an opposite trend, or do something, an anti-trend or something.
right.
I can't agree with that, unfortunately. I would have to think about that a bit to see if I can find a way where jumping on a trend would be a good thing. I wouldn't do it. That's like everyone jumping onto coloring books, or everyone jumping onto, and you can do that, but then your book has to be different. It can't be the same as what's already out there. I don't know. That's
I
a really
agree.
tricky question.
Yeah, it's well, first of all, I would say I don't agree with the fact that it's the only way.
Yeah.
Because that's what it says. It says it seems the only way to make money on Amazon KDP anymore is to jump on trends. My initial response to that is I do not agree with that. Kind of like what you said. That the issue with, and I've seen people who have success with jumping on trends. There's a couple issues that I see with that, why I don't do that in my business. And the two reasons are very related. And one is you've got to be one of the first ones to jump on that trend to
Yeah.
really see the success. And the second one is, by definition of it being a trend, means it's not going to last. And so yes,
Exactly.
you might see it, even if you're one of the first ones, you might see the spike at the beginning, but once that trend starts dying down, so will your income. Whereas I'm more of evergreen and creating things that will stand the test of time, that will still sell 5-10 years from now. And so the other problem that I see, reason why I don't do that, is because of that fluctuation of, the trends, it's a trend, now it's not. You seem like, to me at least, like you're a hamster running on a wheel. Like you always have to find that next trend.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just create good books for people that are in niches where people are looking for books. That's how you're going to be able to stay sustainable. That was, try saying that 10 times fast, or even once. Yeah. So to try to no, forget I tried that again. Oh my God.
I have that all the time when I make videos.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so yeah, so if you try to stay sustainable, then I find more success that way.
Yeah,
especially for the time I'm putting in.
I so agree. As soon as I heard the question, I thought, I wonder why that was asked, because there's usually something behind. There's usually a story behind every question. Yeah. So unfortunately, I can't agree, especially because he said the only way. So no, it's definitely not the only way. Right. Or we'd be doomed if that was the only way to make money on KDP. My sales would plummet. I think, trends are not the answer. And like you said, for some people they work, but they don't work for me.
I think what it may be is when people are jumping on trends, and they're one of the first ones, that's when they see the large dollar signs in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And so that immediately is going to draw more attention to people who aren't in that niche. And they're like, okay, well, it's too late for me now. But again, if you're doing this for a get rich quick, there are so many better ways to do it. Definitely. Whereas I want, again, like I said earlier, I want something that's sustainable for not just my business, but my family. And so, I've done the years where, 1 month, the income's like this, and the next month it crashes. And I don't want that. I don't want to have to, one day I'm, taking my wife out to dinner every night, and then the next one we're eating spaghetti and ramen. Yeah. I don't want that. I want something that is, that is consistent. And so in cases like that, you may not see those huge paydays, the first couple of days you've put your book out there, because it's not a new trend. It's something that you've put time and effort into and knowledge in. But if you look at this a year from now, where is that trend book compared to where your book is?
I know. And also what you said earlier as well, if you're jumping on a trend, you better be the first one. You can't jump on a trend. You have to create the trend. This is the thing. If you create a trend, that's what you have to do. The typical example for that is Coco Wyo. There was that type of, the type of bold and easy coloring books. They were there before, but Coco Wyo created the trend. They actually copied someone, but they were then the ones that created the trend. So yes, you can make money with trends, but you have to be the creator, I think. So yeah.
And the thing is when you look at in that example though, coloring books was not a trend. No. Coloring books have been, it's just they like we talk about all the time. They did their own spin on it. So they took something that wasn't a trend. They didn't try to jump on a trend. They created coloring books, but they did something that made it different. Well, and again, like what you said, that turned into a trend.
It wasn't even different because they copied someone that was already doing it.
Right.
But they didn't have the social media behind them. They were just very clever in the way they promoted it. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. They ran away with the idea, but it wasn't their idea to begin with. There were other coloring books that were the same, and I can't remember the lady's name, but it was another person that actually brought out that type of coloring book. And it's all about the marketing, I guess.
Right. It is. Yeah. But again, getting back to the trends, they weren't jumping on a trend. They were creating like I said, coloring books, which have been around forever. And again, just, doing something that kind of stands out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like you said, marketing it, better than others maybe. But, so even that one, that shows that they're making a ton of money, but it wasn't a trend. I mean, it's a trend now, but that's not what they were doing. So again, sticking with, a concept and a book type that you're comfortable with, that you can put good quality content out there. And then what can you do to make it different? Or, I mean, you and I talk about where we'll go to bookstores or whatever, and we'll see books and maybe take pictures or whatever to get inspiration. And then, again, that's not a trend. It's something that already exists, and it's something that, that interests me, that I see, oh, this is a catchy idea. What can I do to take it to the next level? And then who knows, maybe it will turn into a trend. But I think chasing trends is, at least for me, is definitely way more work. And like I said, like a hamster on a wheel, that I don't want to put that much. And then you put that much time and effort, and you got to do it super quick, before more people get on there. And then if it doesn't catch on, it's not only is it not something that's going to last, months and years, because once the trend goes down, but also if you're not early on, it might not catch on at all for you. And then you've just wasted that time putting into something. So again, I would personally, I stick with things that are more evergreen, that, that doesn't say I don't do things that are seasonal, but evergreen meaning, next year it'll sell. I mean, very first books that I've ever created, which were by far not my best ones, but they still sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. I totally agree. And I find that chasing trends only wears you out. I think it's
agreed.
tiring, because you're not chasing something that sparks some joy in you. You're chasing the money. And when you're chasing the money, it's hard. It's and I've done that. I've tried it out. I've tried chasing trends in previous businesses as well, and it just doesn't work. You have to come up with a unique spin on whatever you do, or create something that you are absolutely in love with, and then at least it can become a passion project, and you've learned something, But if you're chasing the money, I think chasing trends is not the way forward. Yeah.
Right. I agree. And if you're chasing money, again, I would argue to chase consistent money, as opposed to, the spikes.
A flash in the pan.
That might get it. Right. All right. So we have the last question, and this again came from one of our podcast listeners. It says, "Hi, Keith and Nuria. I've been listening to your show for a few years now. Thank you very much. And I've probably listened to a majority of your episodes at this point. It's such a great podcast, and your insights inspire me to keep writing more fiction. For the 100th episode, my question is this: at what point in your own self-publishing journeys did you realize you could turn it into a full-time income? And was the trajectory of income linear or exponential as you published more books?"
Wow, that's a great question. Do we know who it's from?
No, it was the name just said what country they were from.
Okay.
It just said Great Britain. So.
Whoever that was, thank you for that comment. It's lovely. Yeah, I remember the moment exactly when I thought this is going to take off, and that was when I earned my first $10. When I thought I earned $10, I thought, if I can earn $10, I can earn $100. That's what I told myself at the time. And that was really early on, because I tell this story all the time. I started at the end of 2019. It was in the middle of Q4. So it was perfect timing. It was just before the pandemic. So everything, the stars aligned for me, I think. And I made a few notebooks and the first book I ever made was a budgeting book for children. So how to save your pocket money, like a little logbook. And then I made some notebooks, journals. And I made a few books, and then I saw some sales. And when I had the first $10, it wasn't exactly $10, but roughly $10, I thought, if I can make $10, I remember thinking that if I can make $10, I can make 100. I think someone else said that before me, and I kind of heard it and it stuck in my brain. And the first paycheck was, I think, $36 or $37. And it was in May 2020, I hit the $1,000 mark. And that is when I thought, this is it. I don't have to look for a job, because I was still looking for a job and things. And I was working in a cafe and all the rest of it. And that was the moment when I thought, that's it. And that's when I started creating YouTube videos on KDP, because before that I had started YouTube, but it was about blogging and no one saw my videos. I was just talking into the void. And then I made a video about KDP and showed my income report, and that's when it took off. And that's the start of everything else that happened. So since then, we can say we've made 6 figures. So that was the start of that.
Yeah, it's fun. Maybe this is one reason why we get along so well, is because our stories are so similar. I started in 2016, but my first book was published in November of 2016. So again, in Q4, with CreateSpace, and my first page. And again, I just created something. It was really out of necessity. It was for my daughter, and I didn't advertise anything. Didn't even know about that at the time, and I got a paycheck from CreateSpace, and I was like, wow, I got this, and I didn't even try, So that's when I was like, imagine if I put more intent into it. And so it was about, I don't know, probably about 6 months to a year, probably closer to the 9-month period when I did hit that, that 4-figure, $1,000 a month. And that's when I was like, yeah, this is for real money,
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of people ask, so a lot of people know that I do still have a full-time job. And they've asked, well, if you do so well, then why do you still work a full-time job? And there's 2 reasons behind it. One is because my full-time job pays me really well, and the benefits and everything else are really, really good. And the second one is I really enjoy my full-time job. I love doing market research. I love programming and having a team that is amazing. And so I'm one of the few people who have a 9-to-5 job that doesn't feel so much like a job.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely blessed in that aspect. But as far as when did I know I could do this and make a full-time living? I would say once after, like I said, after about 9 months, when I hit that $1,000 a month, I'm like, okay, at that point I can just double down on what's working, and kind of to add to the second part of the question, which is, was the trajectory of your income linear or exponential as you published more books? I would say it was exponential as I published more books, because I became more intentional on the books I published. I became better creator, better writer. And so the books, instead of it, being like this, it was more, straight up, because I could publish less books, but see higher income coming in, because, like you were saying, of how deliberate I was with what, doing the niche research, doing the, reading my competitions, reading their reviews and seeing what people didn't like about those books. So I made sure that I could make my book better because of that. I could use those words that people didn't like as sales copy when I ran ads to my book. So people would feel like I'm literally speaking to them with my ad. And so, yeah, I could create less books and make more money because of the amount of work I was putting behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's such a great story as well. And I have to say, I didn't answer the question whether it was exponential or not. For me, it was up and down. When I hit that 1,000, the following month it went down, and then it went down again, and then it went up again, and then it went down again. So it was a roller coaster. So by that time, I thought, it is a full-time job, but it's not as steady as I would like it to be. So at that time, my husband was still working and he was the one supporting us. And I was very, very lucky that he never once said no, because I gave myself a year. I said, well, if after a year this doesn't work, then I'm going to have to go out there and work again. Mm-hmm. And he was very supportive and he said, no, try, see. And of course, when we hit that $1,000 month, it was even better. We thought, yay, we've made it. This is it. And then it went down. So what happens then is you lose confidence. You think, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe it's not. But then over time, it started climbing again. And even though I would say no 2 months are the same, sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up again. Then all of a sudden, Q4, it shoots up to levels that you don't expect. And that was when we thought, it doesn't matter about the rest of the year. It's Q4. Q4 is paying.
Just make that last. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So it's, there's always that worry in the back of your mind that says, what if this all falls flat and it doesn't, what if something happens, and so far, touch wood, everything's been okay and it's been going steadily up. But, you never lose that kind of insecurity, or I don't. But again, if we were to start from scratch, if something did happen, I love that quote where they say you don't start from scratch, you start from experience. And that is so true. So even though you sometimes think, oh, what if this doesn't happen? You get that bit of insecurity. But I have to say, just from the amount of things I've learned from this journey, it's given me a lot of confidence. So even if this all fell flat, I know I can do other things now. Right. So yeah, that's how it's been for us. So yes, it has been going up, but within that, there've been dips and all sorts.
Yeah. So no, yeah. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, and not to give false assumptions that it's been continuously up. I mean, I've definitely, like I said earlier on in this episode, I've definitely seen the ups and the downs. But with that experience that you're talking about, over time, there've been more ups than downs because you're learning. Again, you're learning about the research. You're learning about, again, being more intentional with what I create. And then also knowing that I want to not put all my eggs in one basket, Yes. So that way, if, Amazon decides they no longer like my niche or me or whatever, I still have other platforms, not just that, but as we said earlier on, not just ebooks, but I've got, paperbacks, I've got print, I've got audiobooks, and things like that. So again, there's especially when it comes to ebooks versus print books, what I've seen is that people, tend to like one or the other, as prefer one or the other.
Yeah.
And so by offering both, again, you're basically giving your potential customer less chance to say no if you give them more options. And so that's another thing that I've seen that's helped my business significantly is when I got to that point where that switch in my head was like, hey, instead of me, creating a whole nother book right now, why don't I take the time to create different formats of this one book that I've already created, taking the extra day or whatever it takes to tweak the ebook interior to now be ready for paperback. Maybe do hardcover, have Olivia create an audiobook format of the book cover, as well as the print version, as well as the hardcover, which, getting back to the person who asked about book cover designers, if you're going to have multiple formats, having the person do it all at once will save you money typically. And if it doesn't, don't use that person. But so it's, they're doing it all at once. And so that definitely has helped me, again, like I said, then is creating, taking one product and creating 4 or 5 different variations on it. So, and that's definitely helped with the trajectory of my business as well.
Yeah, that's good advice. definitely. Yeah, different formats. And that way you kind of create, you do something with what you've already created, basically. You expand that, which where translations are quite good as well, which is what I do. I will have it translated into German or Spanish, which I can do myself. But if I wanted to expand even further, I'd get them translated into other languages as well. Luckily, German and Spanish seem to be the top ones. So I've got that covered. But, it's just another way of expanding what you've already got. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Like, why reinvent the wheel? You know? Again, giving your potential customer less reason to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came in to tag along, and those people who have put in those questions. And don't hesitate, even though we've done this 100th episode Q&A. Don't hesitate to leave other questions either on the YouTube videos or in the comments on the podcasts. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll answer them either directly or we'll answer them on another episode like this.
Yeah. So that's a good thing to do, actually. I've enjoyed answering these questions.
Yeah. It's been a blast.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yep. And thanks again for everybody who's listened for the years we've been on here. We have intent to be on for many more. So again, continue having the questions come and let us know what you think. Leave us a review. Again, leave us a comment. If you'd like to help support the show, you can sign up to join the Mastermind Success support team. It's as little as $3 a month, and you can even choose your own fan emoji.
That's just for YouTube, Keith, or is that on
that's on the podcast episodes?
The podcast.
Yep.
Okay.
On any one of them, there's an option to support the show. So if we've given you at least as much enjoyment as half a cup of coffee a month, then you might want to check out the support the show link in the podcast description. Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.